Okay, let's go to the first slide. Okay, so Erev Tov, good evening everyone from Jerusalem. Thank you for the introduction. I'm very happy to be with you again. I mean, it's been several years since I lectured last for Ari Katz, my friend. So it's nice to be again, although I'm in Israel, you are elsewhere, most of you. And the topic that Ari selected is a favorite of mine. This is actually the beginning of me becoming a folklorist rather than art historian. I mean, I'm still working with visual materials, but more ephemeral materials and not so much with Rembrandt and Leonardo da Vinci. But still, in the same methodology, I'm analyzing the ephemeral materials, and you'll see in this lecture how we do it. So the topic of today is something every one of us knows very well. If you grew in traditional Jewish home or not, we get many New Year cards every year, once more, today less maybe, but still it's something that is part of our life. So when I began this research on this topic, I was curious to see where it started, how it became so widespread, which communities followed that and which not, and so on. There are many curious questions, and the idea was to collect as many cards as possible. That's how I started also my private collection of these items, and to try to analyze them when you put them together, whether by chronology or by geography. So in this lecture, we learned some of this. Of course, we can just show some highlights, but I want to give you as full picture as possible. So I want to begin with my childhood, actually. Here is an image showing how it was in Jerusalem when I was a child, when there are many of these stalls put in the center of the city of Jerusalem, where you can buy New Year cards and you can come and pick whatever you want. And there are many, you see types, many items on the stall here that you can pick one, whether you want one with flowers, one more meaningful, also depending on how much money you have, and so on, because you have to send many cards. So that was the issue. This is like a very nostalgic picture, because today you won't find something like this happening so much, or only in some of the big towns. I'm sorry. Okay, and also the post office that in those years, in the 50s and 60s, when I was growing up in Jerusalem, uh, had special posters for the holiday that ask you, all the people, to send your cards for Rosh Hashanah as early as possible around to the mailbox and send them so that the post office does not collapse when Rosh Hashanah arrives and there are too many in the mail. Because actually we know that the post office at that time used to hire many mailmen for just this month of Elul to be able to send to mail all the new envelopes that were not part of the regular mailing list of the rest of the year. So you have some posters from these years that all show you this calling the people of Israel to send their New Year cards as soon as possible. Even when we look at the envelopes like this one that was specially produced for mailing the New Year cards, this is again in my collection, and many of the items you'll see tonight are from my private collection. It shows you this small envelope to fit the size of the small cards that were popular in Israel at the time. And you can see the date, August 27th, 1964. And the stamp of the post office is here. It says, yes, if you can, those who can read the Hebrew, be ready to send your cards as soon as possible before the holidays begin. And there is a clock that shows you that it's almost 12 o'clock, because it's the last minute. You are in the month of Elul, middle of Elul, or 19th of Elul, and there are not many days for Rosh Hashanah, so you should be quick. And there is a special, this clock that shows you, reminds you to do it as soon as possible. These memories of Israel and the New Year cards of this period are not new, actually. We have already in the diaspora when they actually was even more, let's say, popular than Israel of those years to mail postcards. And this is the period about which we'll be talking most in this lecture, which is a period of about 20 years from late 19th century to 1918 to the early 20th century. In this period of 20 years that was called by historians of the postal card craze. I mean, this was like a plague that caught up in Europe and the United States, and Jews joined it, as we'll see. And so we have these cards that show not photographs, I don't have photographs, but show postcards, New Year cards, and how they were distributed. Yes, we can see that this was a main topic because people, in this period were anxious to get as many cards as possible. So we have these people hire the mailman just to mail postcards. This is in Poland, these two. Here are two more. I just want to show it again. These two from Warsaw around 1910, how popular this was. I mean, you have this mailman coming with his bag filled with New Year cards, or this child is now sort of a caricature, and he brings a bag full of money for good luck, and the New Year cards that are, fill up his bag and they fall on the ground, and there is a blessing in Yiddish that we won't deal with this now. These are, as I said, also early 20th century, and we'll come back to Poland later. The thing is, what was before this new, more or less, I knew when I started my research on this, that there were these cards from early 20th century. And the question, did it start only at that time with the postal card craze, or do we know of New Year cards earlier? The problem is that this field that we are dealing with tonight is cataloged under what we call ephemera. And ephemera are not like manuscripts or precious books that are kept in libraries, and the libraries like the British Library or the Library of Congress are willing to pay hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars to have them. We deal with materials that is usually ending in the garbage. We deal with ephemera. I mean, no one saves, except some, collectors saves the New Year cards or for posterity, or puts them in the museum, or at least not in the past. And usually after the holiday ends, you can hang them in the sukkah, some do that, but after Sukkot, then they are thrown to the garbage. And so we don't have from the past so many that survive. The question is, were there in the past or not? So I searched not only in Jewish tradition to see what was before, and I did find that in several cultures, in the remote past, you can say, even ancient Egypt, people used to write when they wrote letter, whether on papyrus or a scroll or whatever, that before the New Year begins, they will include in the letter some blessings for the New Year. This we know, as I'm showing two examples here, one from ancient Egypt, one from China, from medieval China, that have blessings for the New Year. So we know that this custom, of course, was not invented with the postcard. But really becoming a popular phenomenon, becoming something that you must do, becoming something that everybody goes to the shop and buy New Year cards, it begins only in the 19th century. It begins only in the 19th century with, let's say, industrialization and the ability to buy colorful cards that are printed and not handmade, that were costly and not everyone could buy. So with this, actually, I'm showing you what is cataloged by some historians of these materials as the earliest commercially produced Christmas card. And it's just London 1843. It's not something that we had earlier. We have many European New Year cards before, but as I said, they are of the high society. They are isolated examples. They are not showing a popular phenomena that like it became in the 19th century. So this is not a postcard yet, but it's something illustrated by an artist for Merry Christmas, for the New Year. and reproduced in many copies and used to be, people would buy it and mail it. And now we see a card that is from 1870. The previous one was 1843. This is a postcard. This is a postcard that is produced by many copies, with many copies that everyone can buy and mail. And this is now more attractive, more colors and so on. And so what happened between 1843 that we saw before to 1880? What happened is the invention of the postcard. The invention of the postcard that took place in the 1860s, several people claim that they invented the postcard, but the official inventor is this man that we see his tombstone, Dr. Emanuel Hermann, a Jew, a professor of economy from Vienna University, that came to a conference of the post office in Vienna and offered to them his new invention. Instead of buying a stamp and then see it at home until you write a letter, and then you have to buy an envelope, and then you have to go to the mailbox and deliver it and so on. There are many, let's say, things that can keep you from doing it. He said, no, I'll prepare for you, and what I offer to you, to the post office, is a ready-made letter. The stamp is already on it. The space for writing is limited. People don't have to think I need to write 1 page, 10 pages. No, the space is limited. It's very easy. It will be cheap. It will be cheaper than to buy a stamp. And so that was his invention of this card. And this is how his new card looked like. 1 second. Okay, that's how it called it. Correspondence card. That's how he called it. So one side is to write the address, like here, you see, one of the earliest ones that we have that survived just shortly after it was invented. And the other side is to write the message. So there is a stamp already that is of the Austrian post office that is put here. And you can just write the address, add your message on the other side, and put it in the mailbox, and that's it. The invention was so popular and won such a success that within the first 3 months after it was introduced, in October 1st, 1869, in the first 3 months, 3 million postcards, correspondence cards like this were sold just in Vienna, in Austria. Yes, I mean, so you can see. And then other, here I'm showing one of the earliest Jewish one that was sent. We know by the name Mr. Frankel in Krakow, but it's of the same type. And you can see it's 1873. It's a few years after the invention began. And what happens next is like a plague. Every European country wants to take share of this new invention. So I'm showing you another of these postcards, early postcards, that already now is widespread all over Europe. I'm speaking about the 1870s. And you can see from the languages in which country it was popular. Yes, let's say Cartolina Postale in Italy, and you have in Russian, yes, and you have in Hungarian, and you have in different languages, the postcard in English, and you have a new term that was coined in Hebrew for the first time, Michtav Galui. Michtav Galui meaning a letter that everyone can read. Yes, exposed letter, you can say. That's why we call it today Gluya, something that is everyone can see and read. Yes, it's not hidden. The message is not in envelope. It's everyone can read it. The mailman or whoever sees this letter, you cannot hide it because it's written and it's open. So anyway, that's the term, and you can see how popular it became all over Europe within just few years. By the end of the 19th century, a new custom developed about the postcard, is to divide the side where you write the address into 2. The right section is for writing the address here, while the left is to write your message. Why? Here you see 2 cards, 2 Jewish ones. Just I'm showing you. It's coming by this time. It's very popular in Jewish circles in Germany and Poland in particular. Why? Because you can now keep the other side for picture. This has become like a trend because the producers of these postcards saw that people buy this like, for like crazy. I mean, buy, and they want new ones all the time. So they came with this idea to introduce pictures on the other side, and they occupy all of the other side. So, for example, if the Eiffel Tower was built in Paris, you came to Paris, you have to show all your relatives that you were there. So you buy the postcard that shows the new building, the Eiffel Tower, and you send it to all your relatives. On the other side, you write their address and the short message that you want. Or if you travel to Africa, you want the people who are very interested in this, the exotics of that time, the colonial period. And so you have to show that, yes. I mean, where you've been. I mean, not everybody traveled at that time, and you want to tell everyone where you've been. So that's how these postcards began. I mean, these picture postcards. And of course, one of the genres, or many, trains and aeroplanes and the Royal House of England and so on and so forth. But one of the genres that became very popular were the Christmas cards. The Christmas card now with the picture postcards that became so common by late 19th century became one of the most popular, let's say, item for production. And we get many of them, as you can see, these two Victorian postcards. And so the popularity of this item in these years is so much that there are factories dedicated wholly to produce postcards, especially in the US and Germany. These were the two centers that come, let's say, to the front in the late 19th, early 20th century. Here is the one from in Chicago, yes, of Alfred Holtzman. Yes, the advertisement for it, the largest building in America devoted exclusively to the manufacture of postcards and Christmas cards. So you see the building, it's a whole building factory. Here is another one in Philadelphia, the Chilton Printing Company. And you can see all these people here are busy printing postcards. Yes, I mean, this is really the thing. And then there are shops open, again, in the US and Europe, that's dedicated just for selling postcards. This is in Hoboken, New Jersey, headquarters for souvenir postcards. This shop doesn't sell anything else but just postcards. This is the window here, but here is inside this shop. Yes, I mean, the dream of every collector like me is to enter such a shop in a time machine and buy all the postcards for 1 cent that are here, and now they're worth hundreds of dollars. Anyway, so that's how it was. So, where did Jews enter this field? Now let's move to our topic of Rosh Hashanah cards. It's not that with the invention of postcard, Jews started to send New Year wishes. As I mentioned before, this was common in many societies, even before the 19th century. In Judaism, it actually became a minhag, a custom, in medieval Germany, as we'll see in a second, based on a verse in the Talmud, in the Bible, and then in its interpretation in the Talmud. We have a verse in the Bible, in the book of Psalms, that mentions that the wicked will be blotted out of the book of life. The main thing that we have to see here is this expression, Sefer HaChaim, book of life, and not listed with the righteous. Okay, we have two things here, book of life, and that their names are not listed in it. Okay, so you have the act of writing someone. So based on this, there is a famous passage in the Talmud, in Tractate Rosh Hashanah, and that I think many of you should know because it's something you study in school, that on Rosh Hashanah, 3 books are opened. One for the, based on this, that there is a book in heaven. One book is for the utterly wicked, one for the holy good, and one for the average class of people. The holy righteous are at once inscribed and sealed. Yes, remember in the verse in Psalms it's listed, and life is decreed for them. Yes, I mean the next year will be excellent for them. The entirely wicked are at once inscribed and sealed, and destruction destined for them. They will die in this year. Something bad will happen to them. The average class, most of us, are held in the balance until Yom Kippur. If they prove themselves worthy, they are inscribed for life. If they are not, inscribed for destruction. Okay, so now based on this saying in the Talmud, the minhag in Germany of the Middle Ages is, as far as we know, started with one of the major rabbis of medieval Germany, the Maharil, Rabbi Yaakov of Molin, who lived in Mainz and Worms, these cities on the Rhine. This is the synagogue of Worms, the synagogue of Rashi. For those of you who visited Worms, know, maybe you've seen this synagogue that was destroyed in Kristallnacht and rebuilt after the war. And this is the tombstone of the Maharil, which I went especially to visit. And you can see how many stones are here and notes and so on. So the Maharil, his students, what was customary in medieval Germany, the students of great rabbis would write the customs of the rabbis. So here is this book that is called the Minhagei Maharil, the customs of the Maharil. Maharil, as I said, is the Rashi Tevot, the initials of his name, Morenu Chacham Yaakov Molin. And so in this book, we see the first two editions of it, but it was before it was in manuscript when he was alive. And in this book, one of his students writes of this custom. Our teacher and master taught us that from the time of the month of Elul, when the month of Elul begins, when a person writes a letter to his fellow man, he should hint at the start of that he seeks to return him to goodness in the year and that blessedly approaches us in the manner, and he says what you should write more or less. May you be inscribed and sealed. Again, remember this expression that the book is open and may you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. Yes, meaning that you'll be in the book of life. Yes, and so that was the custom of the Maharil. And apparently, because many of his customs that we know, many others, I can give you a lecture on many of his customs that you still follow until today, and maybe you don't know. For example, breaking the glass in the wedding, but that's another story. But many of his customs became popular first in Ashkenazi Jewry in Germany and then in other Ashkenazi lands, and then throughout the Jewish world. So this is a custom that probably he began, another one. And when the Shulchan Aruch is printed, Rabbi Yosef Karo, who was a Sephardi, author of the Shulchan Aruch, did not know about this custom because this custom was the custom of German Jews. But so in his time, in his lifetime, in the 16th century, he didn't know about this. But when the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, when the abridged Shulchan Aruch was printed and became even more popular than the Shulchan Aruch itself in the 19th century, and the Kitzur, the abridged edition of the Shulchan Aruch was by a Hungarian rabbi, Ukrainian, I'm sorry, from Ungevar, Shlomo Gansfried. He now what he writes there, let's see what he says. Beginning with the month of Elul until Yom Kippur, when one writes a letter to his or her friend, you should mention either at the beginning of the letter or at the end that you pray for him, her, and bless him, her, to be worthy during the forthcoming days of judgment, to be inscribed and sealed in the book of life. So this has become common practice among the Jews of Ashkenaz. We have very little material evidence to show that. I'll show you the little that we have. For example, these letters that we have in Judeo-German, the one on the left, actually even the photograph that I'm showing with the item does not survive. It's an old photograph and we don't know what happened to it. And you can see it's in Hebrew and Judeo-German, for those who can read Judeo-German. And what it says here, yes, Be'ezrat Hashem, with the help of God, may you be inscribed, tikatev v'tichatem, may you be inscribed and sealed immediately for a good year. Yes, this is the message that you give in this period on these letters that are written on the month of Elul, We have some of these letters that survive, not many. As I said, it's ephemeral material and is thrown to the garbage, like this letter that you see here. I show enlargement. Here it's someone sending to his parents, Liebe Eltern, and he's wishing them everything, and also New Year. So because it's a letter that he wrote at that time, this letter will survive because it's so written on such beautiful paper and with all these decorations, embossed decoration. So that's how it survived. Other letters of this type did not. Apparently, this was something people did without even noticing. We have even some from the US, from Washington Heights, from the Yeke neighborhood in the German Jews in New York, of these letters, dating before it becomes a popular custom. And we see, and by this time that they come to the US, it's already printed letter for Rosh Hashanah. L'Shana Tova Tikatev, and there are some flowers, nice decorations, and then you can add the message that you write. It's a long letter. It's only you wish them at the end or at the beginning, as the Maril said, that maybe they sealed for good year. Yes, the detail. Now, the invention of the postcard was very welcome by German Jews, especially at the beginning, because it allowed them now to have a special card to do this, something that they were used to do already. And now it was possible, like this postcard that I showed before, became popular to send short messages. Now you can do this. You can buy a postcard, like the new type that this Dr. Herman invented, and with the blessing for Rosh Hashanah already written on it. You just add the name of the person to whom you send it, and this, by the way, from 1880, it's very early, and then you sign it. And on the other side, you write the name or the address of the person. So it's mostly in German. There are some words in Hebrew. Again, Tiva v'chatima tova, may you be inscribed and sealed for good year, yes. The rest is in German, yes. So that's how it starts. These cards start to develop. We see, I'm showing some other examples. By the way, each of these cards that I'm now showing you, that the early New Year cards that we have printed as postcards, the value of them in the market is about $400-500. So they understand that we're speaking of items that became very, although they were produced in many copies, now they are very precious for collectors. Here are some more examples I'm showing you. Some of these are from my collection, not all. And so the blessing is in German. You add the date here, yes, and you can sign it here. And the other side, you write the address, yes. And always when there is a Hebrew, they emphasize this, ktiva v'chatima tova. May you be written and signed or sealed for good life. Gradually, as I said before, the picture postcards start to appear. We have images on these postcards. And that's how I started to research these items, because I was interested in the images, because, it's another category of Jewish art, you can say, yes? So it was interesting to follow the development of this. So on the early cards that have some images, they are mixed. You have some taken from general art, like these nude angels, putti, but you have also a Sefer Torah, right? And so it's amazing, it's interesting. By the way, for those who are interested in Sephardi culture, it's a German postcard, a German New Year card, a Rosh Hashanah card, but it was sent to Farha Sassoon. I don't know how many of you know Flora Sassoon, this intellectual scholar and even Rebbetzin, sort of the Sassoon family from India that settled in London. Anyway, so it was bought that time and sent to her. The script is not of German Jews; it's a Sephardi or Iraqi script. Anyway, okay, so. And then we have more and more images entering these German postcards. And so here we see, for example, one that is almost fully illustrated. Opa. And so we see a man blowing the shofar, which is good for Rosh Hashanah, of course. and the others are just decorations that are in the style of the time. Yes, I mean, again, early 20th century, printed in Frankfurt, this particular one. And then some, as the images become more and more dominant, now the producers, the designers that they employ, start to look for new topics. And it's very interesting, we are still in Germany. What the German Jewish producers of postcards and their designers are interested in. So, for example, they're interested to show how modern they are while they are Jewish. So it's like this mixture that is of great interest. So it's Moses here, but it's Moses that is taken directly from Christian art, with the two rays coming from his head, holding the tablet. We have images of this type, many in the Christian art of the time, to show, because it's also popular in non-Jewish art, so it's ours, but it's also yours, you can say. Or here to show the finding of Moses by the daughter of Pharaoh. But you show it with a train, with a locomotive, yes? So that you show we are modern. We tell the old story, but we are part of modern society. This is the message that German Jews want to convey. And even we'll find cards that show military cannon for Rosh Hashanah. Yes, it's again the Shana Tova Tikatevu, you can see. And so here's a military cannon. You can say, what's the connection? Why this is on the New Year card? It's as if shooting the blessing, yes? The blessing for a Happy New Year. So the military idea became very important for German Jews of this time, of early 20th century, or even starting in the late. And we have to understand that this topic is totally modern for them, and they want to show that they share it with their German neighbors. Because in the past, to show military items or soldiers in Jewish art was to show the other, to show our enemies. For example, the Egyptians, this is a medieval Agada, medieval Sephardi Agada. The Egyptians chasing the Israelites, this is Moses and the Israelites, so the Egyptians look like medieval knights, because these were the enemies of the Jews in the Middle Ages. They came after us, they came to our ghettos and persecute us and so on. So they are shown, the Egyptians, Pharaoh, King Pharaoh and these generals, the soldiers, are shown as the medieval knights, or in the Agadot, we are still in the Agadot, the wicked son. In the Agadot until the 19th century, you can see every Agadah, if you have an old one, is shown, the wicked son, the Rasha, as a soldier, whether in a manuscript or printed Agadah, this is the Prague Agadah, and is shown as a soldier of the time, wherever it's in Germany or Slovakia or Bohemia or wherever, that's how it's shown, because the Rasha, meaning the one who persecutes us, and he is a soldier. So what happened in 19th century Germany is something of great interest, and is the wish of German Jews at the time to join emancipation and joining the German society while still keeping their tradition, but to become full citizen of German society is best, you can say, shown in this painting by the German Jewish artist Moritz Daniel Oppenheim of Frankfurt. He shows in this painting that is in the Jewish Museum in New York today, he shows a Jewish family, okay, on Shabbat. They finished eating their chulent or whatever. You see the Sabbath lamp is here, above them. The challah is on the table, the wine glass. The father is reading a page from the Talmud. In the middle of all this, let's say, post meal of Shabbat, their son is coming home. Let me show you a detail. Their son comes home. He's a soldier that volunteered to the German army. He is wounded. He's coming home to show that he is a soldier. He's a German citizen, but he still also comes to his family that still preserves the Shabbat. So he's a German Jew, you can say, yes, by all, whatever it means. He wants to get the benefits of both worlds, you can say. As the atmosphere at home is very Jewish. Again, I'm saying the Sabbath lamp, the area of the spice box, they're preparing for Motzei Shabbat already, washing the hands for blessing, Kiddush cup, Challah, Talmud, and so on. And look how his mother and his father, they all venerate him. His father is with a kippah, all the children are, the boys are with a kippah, but he is not. So you have modernity that German Jews wanted to embrace. And so we have New Year cards from this period from Germany that shows Jewish soldiers in the war that fought by the Germans or the Prussians. Yes, like this one that shows. I'm showing you what the inscription here says. Jewish worship on the battlefield. It shows the Battle of Metz, by Metz, of the Franco-Prussian War, Prussian against Germany and against France in 1870. And there is a New Year card that shows this topic to show that we can be soldiers of the Prussian army, but when Yom Kippur arrived, we gather in the field and we make, we have a Torah, small Torah to use, and we read from the Torah while still fighting the war. You won't believe how many postcards of this type we have for Rosh Hashanah. I mean, it's something that you won't even connect today with Rosh Hashanah, but you see how important it was for the German Jews to do this. Yes, you have another one with all the soldiers, the Jewish soldiers are gathered, and one is reading from a Torah scroll on Yom Kippur during this war. And some show now, during this war against steel, that is the first war where Jews participated fully, and many Jews joined the army and were very German Jews and were happy to do that. And so we see here in this room, these Jewish soldiers reading from the Sidurim and the Torah, and on the wall, there is, that it's very, I think, meaningful and not by accident, there is an image of the king of Prussia, Wilhelm I. I mean, in the inscription below, even it says, because we trust you, the high king, and the high king, the most high king, can be the king of Prussia, can be God, of course, but I think it's not accidental. They put this verse to show that how they want to be the citizens of this king, the full-fledged citizens. Okay, I'll skip that. And so in these efforts of German Jews to become, let's say, fully integrated into German society, of course, no one predicting the Second World War and so on at this time, the Holocaust. We have very strange, even I would say, even today, they look to me strange after I've been collecting so many of these New Year cards for Rosh Hashanah, Jewish ones, but they show totally non-Jewish kids. I mean, show these Aryan kids that are so, I don't know, far and remote from Jewish life in Germany, because they want to show that we all know, we are like you. I mean, it's sometimes even make you sick, I mean, to see this. I mean, look at these images of Rosh Hashanah cards. Yes, I mean, German Jews, I mean, okay. So you got the point, I think. And lastly, I want to show from Germany, these cards now for Rosh Hashanah, and you can see the year, 1900, with the non-Jewish year, it's Rosh Hashanah card, it's not a Christmas card, but the non-Jewish year is written in large letters. It's 1900, and the year to creation, the Jewish year, 5661, Rosh Hashanah of that year. But what you see first, and it says L'Shana Tova Tikatev, but what you see first is the 1900. Again, it's not the only one. I can show you many of these. All these from those period are like that. Okay. Okay, so finally, to end the story of Germany, and I hope we can see some Poland as well, because the German Jews started so much to imitate, not everyone, but not the Orthodox, but let's say German Jews who wanted to become citizens of the world, you can say, secular or half secular, most of German Jewry actually. So there are many anti-Semitic caricatures start to appear on them. For example, here we have one caricature from the time, from 1905, showing how the Hanukkah lamp of Mr. Cohen becomes a Christmas tree of Herr Conrad. Yeah, so this is the process that these German Jews are going. And the last card I want to show from Germany is this card, New Year card, Rosh Hashanah card, that has Christmas atmosphere to it. Yes, it says here Rosh Hashanah, for those who can see the Hebrew, and you have the date, the Hebrew date, you have the Christian date, 1906, you have a Magen David, but the colors green and red and so on, and you know that you are dealing with Jews that want to be German by all means. If you read the memories of Gershom Scholem, for example, from Berlin of these years that he was a child, you can see all the atmosphere that I'm describing to you. Okay, so in the few minutes that we have, I want to show you some of the Polish cards so that you'll see how different was the atmosphere in neighboring Poland, in the shtetls. In the shtetls of Poland, where many postcards were produced as well, imitating the German custom. They start slightly later. They are already about 1910 or so that they are produced, the early ones, and then throughout the second decade of the 20th century. First of all, the postcards in Poland of Jewish life are not ashamed in quotation marks to show the real Jewish life. We see the shtetl and this carriage is not someone who is showing wealth or these cute children that we saw before. It shows the synagogue and people near the synagogue. Yes, it shows typical Jewish types of Poland of the time. Yes, I mean, typical professions, like the one who carries the water, or a carpenter, or shoemaker, and so on, from Lodge in this case. And we see the poverty of the time. There's no point here to hide it because they did not think of themselves as different, I mean, as those who want to be equal to the rest of the society. They are different, they know that, and they don't mind to show that. Poor children, this old person that doesn't know where to go. The name of the painting is Leanne, where to, where, yes, what's my future? And you can see the despair on his face. And even there are postcards that produced in Poland at the time that show pogroms. Yes, like here's the pogrom in Bobroisk, where you see many Torah scrolls were burned and many people were killed. And so this postcard showed the people who were pogrom district of Bobroisk. And really the postcard is to fundraise from other Jews at the time to help these poor people. You don't find any of this in Germany, of course. So the New Year card that they produce are very much describing Jewish life. They don't have a problem to show their inner Jewish life with all the superstitions, with all the, let's say, gestures that no Goy will understand, no Gentile will understand. It's real Jewish life, what's going on in your house, inside the house, not for others to look at and only for Jews. All the inscriptions are in Yiddish, so only Jews can read it. It's not intended for a non-Jewish audience. And here we see, for example, the blessing over the candles, Adlakat Nerot for Erev Shabbat. So, of course, you can say it looks like a photograph that was colored, which was a common technique of the time. And you can say how it can be that on Eve of Shabbat, a picture like that was taken. Of course, this look very pious women and so on. So this is what we see here, look like real, but they are artificial. They are done in a studio. There were these Jewish designers in Warsaw and Krakow in particular that were designing and using actors, but still showing us the reality because this is what they knew. So, for example, on the wall, there is a picture that we know that was very common that shows the great rabbis of the time. Yeah, so they used, let's say, to recreate really the atmosphere, the items that are needed. Some of the postcards we can see immediately for Rosh Hashanah that they are staged because they use the same people, the actors, you can say. Here's this child and the girl are here. Here is Tzukol Nidre going to the synagogue on Yom Kippur, and here is the Bobe Medenkalar, the grandmother with the grandchildren. And by the way, again, these are actors, and the woman is the same. The rabbi or the old person is not here, but the three others are the same persons. And of course, these two postcards were created by the same maker in Warsaw. I know even his name, but doesn't matter now. Anyway, and it shows, it was in his studio, but it shows in the background here in both of these, the great synagogue of Warsaw that was destroyed. Okay, so anyway, okay, so, and even we have postcards that show us, as I said, customs of the time and the Jewish, how many people, non-Jews, would know what Havdalah is. Here's the Havdalah ceremony on Motzei Shabbat, and the family is standing in the room and so on. Father is holding the cup of wine. And all the items in this image, for me as a historian of Jewish ethnography and Jewish art, this is very important because, for example, the Kiddush cup that is holding is typical Polish Kiddush cup. The German ones have a leg. I won't get into this now, it's not so important. And even the way that you hold it, between your fingers, that's how it was held in the Kiddush in Poland. So we learn a lot of ethnographic material from these postcards. We have two candlesticks. One is a lamp, a menorah here of this type, and the two candlesticks. Again, typical in Poland, and this, by the way, the number of children. If you have 4 children, you light this, otherwise you light only 2, and so on. Okay, I'll skip some because we are running out of time. And other interesting customs that we see in these postcards are, for example, not related to holidays, but this to the life cycle. This is the only image that we have of this custom, and it's preserved because it was put on a Rosh Hashanah card, on a New Year card. When a male child was born, people are very worried until the Brit Milah, until circumcision. So 8 days is sort of a limbo until circumcision is not safe, is an liminal stage, as we say it in anthropology. So the custom was, especially dangerous is the night before circumcision, which is called in Yiddish Wachnacht, the night before circumcision, when you don't go to sleep and you keep awake next to the woman when you deliver the baby and the baby, so that the demons don't hurt the baby or his mother. So the custom is that the melamed, the teacher, brings the children from the cheder, and they come to the room where the baby was born, and they recite Shema, Krishma, like Impeterin. They recite Shema because the belief was that this baby will grow to be like them. They are healthy, they are good, they are already studying Torah, and the new child will be like them. And so that's how it's done. So we have an illustration for this custom. Here is the woman that just delivered the baby. These are 2 women that are guarding her. And look on the wall, there is something that is the only evidence that we have for this, are amulets for that the male child was born, Mazal Tov Lezachar. A male child was born, so you hang on the wall these amulets to keep him safe. Okay, I think the last stage will be I'll show some of the modernity in Poland, and you can see that also this postcard showed the changes in Jewish society that were especially felt in Poland, less in Germany. And this is the introduction of Zionism and the new Hebrew literature and things like that. So for example, here is a New Year card that shows the preparation of a Simchat Torah flag, but on the wall there are the pictures of Shalom Aleichem and Mendele Mocher Sfarim, new writers of the time. On other ones, we can see on the wall here the pictures of Herzl and Nordau, the prophets of Zionism. Okay, I'll skip that. And you can see also in 5 minutes I'll finish. I want to show you a few more and see, we'll get to America in 1 minute, and with this we'll finish. To show you that even customs that the Gentiles were ridiculing the Jews for doing them. For example, the kaparot, that you kill the rooster for your sins. The Christians were telling jokes about Jews that they believe that if they kill an animal, their sins will be forgiven. No, this is not the way to do it. But still, Polish Jews did not mind to show on many postcards this minhag. This is like something that, it was a superstition for the Gentiles, but still they show it on many postcards. I mean, I have like 4 pages of postcards just on this topic. Yes, I mean, on the kaparot. And the height of this is these 2 postcards that show the kaparot, yes, on Yom Kippur, while the chicken has the face, you can see here, not of a chicken, but of the Russian Tsar. So he is the one who persecutes the Jews, and so it becomes political here. It's only intended for Jews, only they can understand this joke here, that he is going to be, hopefully, that's what I wish at least, that this persecutor will die and we go to life. So, and even we have some that were done in the 1930s with Hitler. Yes, okay. Anyway, okay, so the last thing that I want to show you is where the help will come from. The help will come, and this many cards will show us that, from America, from the Golden Medina. So there are many cards that now show the ship going from Eastern Europe to the US, and these cards are called the Shana Tova ship's card. I mean, New Year with the ship that's carrying the cards, yes. And so you see they leave Eastern Europe and they will get to Ellis Island. And here is all the symbols of salvation, yes, the anchor, the saving life, and so on. And so they arrive into America, and this is already produced by Hebrew Publishing Company in New York around 1912 or so. And it says here, the ship's card again, and it says, Mechoshech leor, from darkness to light. What is the darkness and what is the light? The darkness is the emblem of the Tsar, the double-headed eagle. The light is the American eagle. Okay, so that's how they view this. And then when they arrive in America, here they arrive in America, and these New Year cards, Ellis Island, you can see, and the local Jews welcome them. So how they welcome them? Here is Mrs. America is opening the gates of heaven, you can say, with the American eagle, and it says here, open for me the gates of righteous, for the righteous to enter. And so they enter, the poor people from Eastern Europe, that they arrive now for this lady America, that holding the key and opening the door. And you can see on the door is written US here, yes. Okay, so that's more or less the end of my story. And here are the Yeke Jews that are welcoming them. We know that it wasn't so easy and they did not welcome them so well, but on the New Year cards, everything is naive and shown in this ideal way. And so we have the story unfolding until this period of around 1915 that I'm telling you, and it continues. If you look in your postcards or New Year cards of later periods, you can tell the same, adventures of the Jewish people through this kind of images. So I'll stop here, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to reply. Okay?
Yes. Professor Sabar, first of all, thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the share so that we can see you full screen. One moment. There we go. So first of all, thank you. That was amazing, and amazing so much more about history than I would imagine that is possible to come from postcards. I'll jump right into the questions. One of them was, were there any postcards found in the Cairo Geniza?
No, not that I know of. Of course, postcards is a concept of 19th century, but you mean messages was for Rosh Hashanah. I don't know. I don't think there is one. I'll check again now that you raised the question, but it wasn't, as I said again, as far as we know, the custom started among Ashkenazi Jews, not Sfaradim. And Jews of Islam, for example, some communities, for example, those of Yemen or other countries, they never heard about this custom of sending New Year card until they came to Israel. So it wasn't common there. Those who were less in contact with Europe never heard of it until modern times, until our time, really.
Thank you. So there are a few questions about your collection. If you can say how large is your collection? There was a question, was it digitized? Is there a book of this collection, and are there other collections in the world, or is yours the only one?
No, there are many. Actually, listen, when I started, why I started to collect, before, this was started in the 1990s. Before, I only bought books. That was my house is full with books until today. But then, as I said, came this idea to me that I should explore all fields of Jewish art, not only the Hanukkah lamps or the Torah scrolls, the Torah crowns and things like that are very costly and beautiful and so on. So why not this ephemera? So I started to ask collectors, and even the Israel Museum. I met with the curator of Judaica in the Israel Museum, and she said, no, we don't have any. These are nothing. These are not important. So I said, I don't have a choice but to start to buy them because I want to describe them, and I don't have the collections as I used to go to collector or to a museum and write about. So I started to buy. I would visit all the dealers in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in Haifa. I traveled everywhere. And at that time, no one collected this. And they told me, take any that you want, 1 shekel for each, something like that. So I bought everything, not anything that I didn't have, I bought. So by today, my collection is about, I would say, 25,000 New Year cards from all over the world, especially from Israel, but not only. And we didn't even see one Israeli postcard. Sorry, in another lecture. And then, as I started to write about this, by the first essay that I wrote about this topic, which appeared in 1997, if I'm not mistaken, there was only one passage written on this topic from scholarly point of view, one passage of 6 lines. That was all the information that I had. So, but since then, first of all, many of my students became curators in the museum. Then the articles appeared and people started to show interest. So they started to buy and collect them. And today there are many collections. Today, for me to find a card that I don't have will be paying a lot of money because the prices have gone up and people are interested. And there have been several exhibitions, especially in Israel, but not only. I mean, so there are the catalogs of these exhibitions. The Israel Museum did a big exhibition. The curator was a student of mine, Rachel Tzorfati. They did an exhibition of 100 years of New Year cards, and the catalog is still available in Hebrew and English. And there are many. There have been like 7 or 8 exhibitions. Some, I think, also in the US, but mostly in Israel. So, and there are collectors and there are essays. If anyone interested, I can send you some of the essays, and no problem.
So first of all, of course, and we're going to share the essays in the follow-up email. I'll end with a question. Do you have a favorite card?
Oh, I have many. And let's tell you, those that are my favorite are those really that relate to my childhood in the 50s in Israel. They show, for example, people in the Ma'abara. For those who know what's the Ma'abara, these tents for all the new immigrants, these cabins that were built quickly when the Jews from Islamic lands were brought to Israel, and after the state was established and there was no housing, so we were put in these camps for several years. And so there are these New Year cards that show these people in the Ma'abara, the people from Iraq, from Kurdistan, from these countries, and the bird coming from heaven, and she's holding in her beak a certificate for an apartment in a shikun. So that's, for example, something like that is very touchy for me, because that was the dream of my father all my childhood until we moved. It was 5 years in the Ma'abara before we got an apartment in the Shikun. So this kind of things are that of the history of Israel, of personal, and also the 6-day war are also amazing to see the euphoria that was in Israel of that time, the total opposite of today, total opposite of the world that we are now part of. At that time, wow, the cards, the New Year cards are celebrating with such joy and such enthusiasm about this miracle of the victory over the enemies of Israel in 67. So the many cards that are really amazing have nothing to do with Rosh Hashanah. Again, this is what amazing, that the designers of these cards were not so much thinking of in religious terms. They were thinking of what is good, what you want here to be good. This is a symbol that the army has won. It's a good sign. It's a good thing for us that we are safe now, that maybe we can live in peace and so on. So it's very interesting how the iconography developed. And you could see from the two examples that I gave you how different Germany and Poland were.
Professor Sabar, thank you so much. I'll say that, first of all, I'm echoing some of the comments I'm seeing, and for those of you who said how excellent it is and that we need to have Professor Sabar again, we are planning to have you again for a series about a different type of Jewish art, so that's going to happen. And now I feel we might need one session about Israeli Rosh Hashanah cards. So maybe we'll have that too, because now I want to see those. So thank you very much. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining. Toda rabba.
My pleasure. Toda rabba. Thank you.
Thank
Shana
you.
tova to everyone.
Shana tova. I now hope we'll see you again and in time to still say that. Shana